There's no one-size-fits-all approach to creating a successful fundraising strategy and plan.
People are nervous, right? It's a big deal. We're raising $10 million, even if we're raising $1 or $3 million, depending on the size of the org.
Major gift fundraising is not deadline driven. It really is probably the only type of fundraising, along with planned giving, that is not deadline driven.
AI comes on the scene that's affordable, accessible, that can provide insights and personalization at scale.
That's the first core element of this fundraising engine or funnel, is making sure that the top of your funnel, the beginning of your fundraising process, you are in front of the right people.
What do the people we serve need? And how do we open the door to help them get there?
What happens a lot of times is we get this discomfort or this fear, and our brain tells our body to stop.
We can acquire donors and we can automate everything. And that's where I worry, at least personally, around the perils of AI, that it would remove humans from the interaction.
This is the Intentional Fundraiser podcast.
Welcome to the Intentional Fundraiser podcast, where we explore how to fundraise with purpose, passion, and a whole lot of heart. I'm your host, Tammy Zonker, and today we're diving into one of the most powerful and sometimes most challenging aspects of healthcare philanthropy, inviting grateful patients and families to share their stories. But before we go any further, let me ask you something. Have you ever heard a patient's story that stopped you in your tracks? Maybe it was a heartfelt thank you from a cancer survivor, or a parent's tearful gratitude after their child's life was saved. Those stories don't just inspire donors. They transform entire communities. They're the heartbeat of our missions. And when shared authentically, they have the power to raise critical funds and deepen trust in ways that statistics and annual reports simply can't. Yet, as many of us know all too well, inviting patients and families to share these powerful experiences isn't always straightforward. How do we do it in a way that feels safe, authentic, and truly mission-driven? How do we walk that fine line between inspiration and sensitivity? That's exactly what we're unpacking today. So grab your coffee, settle in, and let's get intentional about storytelling in healthcare fundraising. Let's start with a little story of my own. Years ago, I was working with a hospital foundation on a major campaign. They had all the right ingredients: a compelling case for support, a strong board, and a list of grateful patients who'd already expressed their thanks, but something was missing. Their fundraising events felt flat. Their appeals were polite but forgettable. Then at one event, a former patient named Lisa stood up to share her journey. She spoke about her diagnosis, the fear she felt, and the care she received, not just from doctors, but from every staff member she encountered. She talked about how the hospital became her second family. By the time she finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the house. Donations doubled that night. That's the power of a grateful patient's story. It's not just about the facts. It's about the feelings. It's about connecting people to your mission in a way that spreadsheets never could. And it's not just anecdotal. A study found that 88% of large gifts to healthcare organizations come from grateful patients and families. That's right. Nearly 9 out of 10 major gifts are inspired by people who've experienced your mission firsthand. But here's the challenge. How do we invite those stories in a way that honors the storyteller and protects their privacy and emotional well-being? Let's be honest. This is where a lot of organizations stumble. Maybe you've seen it happen. I certainly have. A well-meaning fundraiser treats storytelling as a transaction, not a relationship. A patient is asked to share their story before they're ready, or worse, without fully understanding how it will be used. Privacy concerns are glossed over, or family members are left out of the conversation. When this happens, we risk eroding the very trust we're trying to build. And in healthcare, trust is everything. So let's talk about what works. How do we invite grateful patients and families to share their stories in a way that's safe, authentic, and mission-driven? First and foremost, start with gratitude. Reach out to patients and families who have already expressed thanks, maybe through a handwritten note, a positive survey response, or a heartfelt email. These are the folks who are already telling you, I want to give back. But, and this is crucial, always ask for permission before sharing any story. Frame the invitation as an opportunity, not an obligation. For example, you might say, "We were so moved by your kind words. Would you be open to sharing your experience with others so we can help even more families?" And timing matters. Schedule interviews at a time and place that's comfortable for the patient or family, often after they've returned home and had time to reflect. Remember, healing takes time, and so does storytelling. I want to pause for a moment. Think about your own organization. Who are the patients or families who've already reached out to say thank you? How might you approach them with an invitation that feels respectful and empowering? Jot down a few names or stories that come to mind. Not everyone wants to stand on a stage or be featured in a glossy brochure. Some people are natural storytellers. Others prefer to share in writing or even anonymously. Offer a menu of storytelling options: written testimonials, video interviews, small group discussions, or anonymous submissions. Empower patients and families to choose how, when, and with whom they share their story. The more control they have, the safer and more authentic the process will feel. Think of storytelling like a buffet, not a prefix menu. Give people choices, and they'll find the option that's right for them. Imagine being asked to share one of the most vulnerable moments of your life. It's a big ask. That's why support and preparation are key. Provide a storytelling guide or toolkit to help patients and families prepare. This might include sample questions, tips for structuring their story, or even a checklist of things to consider. Assign a staff member to act as a liaison, someone who can offer emotional support, answer questions, and be a steady presence throughout the process. One hospital foundation launched a Gifts of Health campaign. They identified grateful patients through post-discharge surveys and invited them to a storytelling workshop. Participants could choose to share their story on video, in writing, or as part of a panel at a fundraising event. The result? Not only did donor engagement increase, but several storytellers became ongoing ambassadors and major donors themselves. This is non-negotiable. Be transparent about how stories will be used and obtain written consent for each use case, whether it's your website, an event, or print materials. Respect boundaries. Some families may want to share only within a closed group or at a private event. That's okay. The goal is to honor their wishes, not to check a box. Which prompts me to say, if you haven't reviewed your consent forms lately, now's the time. Are they clear? Are they easy to understand? Do they give patients and families real choices about how their stories are used? Finally, recognize storytellers as mission partners, not just fundraising assets. Keep them informed about the impact of their story and the funds raised as a result. Send a thank you note. Invite them to future events. Let them know they're part of something bigger. When you treat storytellers as partners, they often become your most passionate ambassadors, and sometimes your most generous donors. Now let's talk tech. The right tools can make this process smoother and more secure. Here are a few platforms I recommend. Donor Search CRM. This all-in-one fundraising and donor management platform includes event management and customizable communication journeys. Donor Perfect, especially strong for healthcare nonprofits, with robust donor segmentation, event management, and privacy features. Ascend by Kindsight, built specifically for healthcare with HIPAA, A compliance, and a grateful patient program module. These tools help you track consent, manage stories, and ensure privacy, all while making it easier to steward your storytellers. With data privacy laws tightening and donor expectations rising, more organizations are investing in platforms that prioritize security and personalization. It's not just about compliance, it's about building trust. Let's get practical. Here are 4 steps you can take right now to make your storytelling more intentional. Start small. Pilot your storytelling initiative with a handful of willing participants. Learn as you go and refine your approach based on feedback. Create a safe space. Offer multiple ways to share and always prioritize consent. Make it clear that participation is voluntary and that storytellers are in control. Track impact. Use key performance indicators like donor conversion rates and storyteller satisfaction to measure and refine your approach. Don't just count stories, count outcomes. Leverage technology. Invest in software that supports privacy, segmentation, and multi-channel storytelling. The right tools can save you time and protect your storytellers. Let me ask you, what's one thing you could do this week to make your storytelling process more patient-centered? Maybe it's reviewing your consent forms, reaching out to a grateful family, or exploring a new tech platform. Whatever it is, commit to taking that first step. Let's bring this home with a metaphor. Think of your organization as a tapestry. Every patient story is a thread, unique, colorful, and essential. When you weave those threads together with care and intention, you create something beautiful, strong, and enduring. But if you pull too hard on one thread or ignore the others, the whole tapestry can unravel. That's why balance between inspiration and sensitivity, between storytelling and stewardship, is so important. Let's have a little fun. I challenge you to a story swap. This week, find a colleague in another department, maybe someone in nursing, social work, or administration, and swap stories about the impact you've seen. You might be surprised at the connections you discover, and you'll gain a new appreciation for the power of storytelling across your organization. If you try this, I'd love to hear how it goes. Share your experiences with me on LinkedIn or in the comments below. If there's one thing I've learned in nearly 30 years as a major gift expert and nonprofit leader, it's this. Authentic patient and family stories are among the most valuable assets we have. When we invite people to share from a place of respect and partnership, the results are extraordinary, not just for fundraising, but for the entire culture of our organizations. So as you head into your week, I encourage you to look for those moments of gratitude. Invite stories with care and intention. Protect privacy and honor boundaries. Celebrate storytellers as partners in your mission. Because when we do this work well, we don't just raise more money. We build stronger, more compassionate communities. Every story you invite, every patient you empower, is a step toward transforming your fundraising and your organization. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Start today, start small, and watch the ripple effects grow. And if you have a story or strategy to share, I want to hear from you. Reach out on LinkedIn or drop a comment below. Together, we can build a more compassionate, effective approach to healthcare philanthropy. Thank you for joining me on the Intentional Fundraiser podcast. Keep transforming your fundraising so you can transform the world.
The Intentional Fundraiser podcast is a Fundraising Transformed original. I'm Trent Thompson, the executive producer and CMO and head of community at Fundraising Transform. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review it and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Visit fundraisingtransform.com to get resources mentioned during this episode and subscribe to our Scaling Major Gifts newsletter.